Welcome back, dear friends. And just to update you, I was wrong about those stories. They were quite cool, actually. Not digging anything on their own memory, trying to find similarities between this Great Zimbabwe site and other ancient civilization sites, such as the Peruvian site of Machu Picchu.
African History Daily by my daddy.
Dr. Quinta, I know you visited that site of Machu Picchu, so did you find the same similarities? And what does it make you feel that Machu Picchu is much more known by tourists from all over the world?
So yeah, fortunately, I have also visited Machu Picchu before I got to see Great Zimbabwe. For me, the biggest similarity between the two is, no mortar was used to connect the stones at both sites, right? So they basically constructed the stones in a way that they can fit together without using any cement, any mortar, any sand, like nothing. It was just stone to stone, which is really cool if you think about it, because we don't even build like that today. And then there's another similarity that's more obvious, which is that both sites were built with stone. And in fact, this is similar to many other sites around the world. Like we can talk about the Colosseum in Rome. We can talk about Chichen Itza in Mexico. Now, these other sites are quite famous, right? Everybody knows what Machu Picchu is. And even if you don't really know what it is, you've heard of it. How many people have heard about Great Zimbabwe? Not enough. So I think actually it's really important for us to value our own history, to value it enough that we learn about these sites.
There are 145 UNESCO World Heritage Sites across 41 African countries. So which other African historical site did you visit?
It's true. Whenever I travel, I get to a place, I'm often surprised to find, oh wow, this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I don't often go looking for them. They just happen to be in places where I am. So the most notable ones that I can remember, because I haven't kept track of all of them, are the Kasubi tombs in Kampala, the Namib Sand Sea. So this is like where the Namibian desert, or the Namib Desert in Namibia meets the Atlantic Ocean. Gore Island in Senegal, obviously the last point for a lot of slaves who were sent to the Americas. Grand Bassam in Côte d'Ivoire. The Medina of Marrakesh, wow, so beautiful. Ait Ben Hadou, it was a stop along the way from Sahara to Marrakesh, so it's also in Morocco. And actually for people who used to love watching Game of Thrones, some of the scenes were shot at this place, Ait Ben Hadou. Mount Kilimanjaro National Park, Stone Town in Zanzibar, Mosiotunya Falls in Zambia. This is also called Victoria Falls, but the original name is Mosiotunya Falls, and it means the smoke that thunders. And finally, Robben Island, right? The island off the coast of South Africa where Nelson Mandela was kept prisoner for 27 years.
Yeah, you are completely right. How many Africans, when they are planning to go for vacation, consider African historical sites, but first we have to value them, right?
Yeah. I want to say that there are some places that I've been to that were so hyped up, and when I got there, I was like, this is it. And I'm not going to name, if we don't take control of our own stories, then we're leaving the way open for other people to come and tell us who we are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who are we and who are you, Dr. Quinta? And how did you manage to be so grounded in Africa? Because you've traveled all those places and I can feel that you are so much grounded. I have 2 daughters myself, and I'm always wondering, how do you manage to get them so grounded that wherever they go, they can still belong somewhere in this continent? Where is that passion for Africa coming from?
Surprisingly, or maybe not, I started getting a passion for history, and in particular African history, while I was still living in Africa. I think that it boils down to the sort of teachers that I had. My teachers in primary school, in secondary school, were just very good teachers. And the way they taught made you kind of want to go back in time and, live in all these different kingdoms that you were learning about, right? Moina Mutapa, the Zulu kingdom, all these things that were happening in history. And it just sort of felt like you're sitting on a hill and watching all of it play out. So I definitely want to thank my teachers for that. However, living outside of Africa has also, made me even more pro-Africa, because I see a lot of disinformation in the West. And I think Westerners think that we didn't start existing until they showed up in Africa, which obviously is not true. We have a long and rich
So traveling has actually helped you become more African.
I do love to travel. I have a travel blog called drquinta.com. And on that blog, I share travel stories, I share tips, tricks, things to do in certain places that I had such a good experience that I want to tell everyone, things to make your travel experience better, stuff like that. And I've kind of caught the publishing bug. So I've written and published a few books. The latest one is a collection of African fables. So talking about us telling our own stories. I think we all remember growing up and, we were sitting at the feet of someone older than us who was telling us stories, especially in the evenings, right? And the embarrassing thing is a lot of us don't even remember any of those stories. How are we going to pass them down if we don't remember them? The collection of African fables is just a chance for us to, pass these stories on to our children, like the next generation. So they come from 7 different countries in Africa. The title of the book is The Hair and Baboon and Other Stories. I should also point out here that it has beautiful illustrations done by a Zimbabwean artist that I know. His name is Tamba Tavuma.
Yes, so Dr. Quinta, thanks for being our pilot today. We are getting at the end of our conversation. Would you have any last word for our listeners?
Every little bit of effort counts. We don't need to make a difference by putting something in place that will immediately impact millions of people. If you can positively impact one person, it's worth the effort. So don't be discouraged if you're trying and you don't see a huge change, because small changes is where everything starts. Because if we join forces, we're unstoppable.
Yeah, unstoppable is a great illustration of what you actually do in life. In terms of profession. Would you like to expand on it, please?
Yeah, so I run a consulting firm and we provide energy and water strategies and solutions, mostly for private clients, like private sector clients in Africa. We also do capacity development work, which means providing training, developing curricula, setting up education centers, things like that. In fact, we were involved in setting up a university in Senegal called the Dakar American University of Science and Technology. And this university is very special in a lot of ways. First of all, it's completely focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. But I think what makes it even more special is that it provides a practical education. We're teaching not just the theory, but also teaching the kids how to apply the theory in practice, so that by the time they graduate, they will be engineers and scientists who know how to do science and engineering in the real world.
My African cliché of the day is the importance of writing and publishing our own history. This is how Dr. Quinta justifies it and how she contributes to it. She greatly contributes to that through an initiative that I really, really admire.
So the reason I'm so passionate about publishing, about writing, is because of a quote by Chinua Achebe. He said, "Until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero." So traditionally, as alluded to earlier, we pass on our stories orally. But if we lose someone who knows stories, then all of those stories are lost with that person. Now we need to change that. We need to write our stories down so that we can pass them on, we can spread them, and we can learn actually who we are. So with that in mind, I created a writing competition for African writers, and it's called the Griot African Storytellers Competition. And it's open to Africans no matter where you're located in the world. And we're currently open for submissions, and the deadline is not until the end of January next year. So January 29th of 2021. So you have all of November, December, and January, 3 months, more than enough. And we're not asking for a very long story. I think the ceiling is 3,500 words. And the theme is adventure. So go craft a story around adventure and submit it to us. We have cash prizes for the top 3, ranging from $500 to $100. And then the top 10 entries will be compiled into a collection and they'll be published. So you get to become a published author. Yeah, which is amazing. If you want more information, please go to contest.squintybooks.com. Take that as a challenge and submit some story. As usual, the Nigerians are leading the race. So challenge for all the other Africans.